Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to evening program. We are going live to U.S. Congressional hearing on Biafra. So join us. Today is 18th of September 2025. So, ka o si akpọtụ n'obodo Washington DC ka anyị senye gị na gbamgbam the back to back. So join us live as we proceed in this program. Biafra is making a great history in the land of United States of America. What have never happened in the history of mankind is happening live in Washington DC. So join us as we go live in Washington DC as it is happening. So in your message to say just share the program. Let the world begin to hear and see what is going on in Washington. Biafra is taking a new dimension. For those that don't care what we are going, Biafra is making history today. Today being the 18th of September 2025, Biafra is making a great history. If you are not joining in this movement, my dear, you are missing a lot. And in the same opportunity, fund your liberation by supporting Biafra Defense Force. So watch this live program as we proceed.
All right, the hour is here, and we all know the reason why we are here today. We are here for our freedom because it's our right. And Congressional briefing. And we have our special guest here. We Biafrans are familiar with who he is. He's someone who advocates for freedom, human rights, and also religious rights. We have our special guest, Marco Rubio. And senior fellow American enterprise. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you very much, Mr. Acting Prime Minister. It's good to see Biafra in D.C. Unlike in Nigeria, and unlike in Finland, we're not going to arrest dissidents. With this audience, we don't need to tell you that Biafra may have declared its independence, but it is a long history. And if we count the maps that European merchants, geographers, and other travelers made dating back to the 17th century, then Biafra is actually older than the United States of America. We're not talking about a so-called secession. We're talking about decolonization. And when we look at Africa today, we must recognize that the problem of colonialism is no longer based in London and in Paris. It's based in places like Abuja and Lagos. The fact of the matter is, and for that matter, Yaoundé as well, the fact of the matter is that we are witnessing a second wave of decolonization in Africa right now. Biafra, Amazonia, Somaliland are at the front line of a struggle for freedom, religious freedom, as well as simply personal, economic freedom, political freedom. The fact of the matter is, though, when we talk about that front line of colonialism, Biafra, Amazonia, Somaliland, we're also talking about a response to genocide. The fact that look at the modern history and it's so appropriate that we're sitting here in a room of the Biafra struggle. The fact of the matter, they did not start the struggle for Biafran rights. Nigeria did. Nigeria has agency. They have decision making. No one forced Nigeria to undertake the pogroms of 1966. That was a decision that was made in Lagos. And what we have seen, the struggle for freedom in Biafra, is a natural response to the repression, which is now more than 60 years old inside Nigeria, and especially with regard to Biafra. Now, we can talk about genocide, and unfortunately, what has occurred in Biafra in the late 1960s and so forth isn't the only case of genocide that the 20th century has seen. But what makes the history and the recognition of the Biafran genocide so important is this. When the Jews suffered Holocaust, Germany afterwards acknowledged the Holocaust. The ideology that led to Nazism became stigmatized. Yes, there are still Nazis today, but it is an ideology which is outside the realm of acceptable belief. The problem of genocide, denial, isn't simply a denial of fact, a denial of history. But when you don't acknowledge the genocide, then what you're actually doing is throwing a light raft to the ideology upon which that genocide occurred. So when you have someone like a lady whose hands were covered in blood from the events of the Biafra genocide, by the president of Nigeria, without anyone acknowledging his role, that simply perpetrates and legitimizes that genocide. Now, when it comes to genocide denial, I also have this to say. When people debate foreign policy in the United States, one of the progressive slogans that we hear time and time again is no blood for oil. Well, I have a message for Alexander Stubb. No genocide for oil. Finland has been a disgrace. Soon has come to Turkey at the expense of the Kurds, at the expense of other districts, for the sake of getting Turkey to lift its de facto veto for Finland's NATO membership. Now he's kowtowing to the Nigerian government by arresting Simon Peck for the sole reason of advocating against genocide and providing, frankly, at this point, the only reasonable way forward, given the actions of the Nigerian state. Now, we can't engage in wishful thinking, and unfortunately, that has been the problem in the United States. I would argue that Europe is more engaged in a cynicism, where they simply want Nigeria's oil. Let's be frank, it's not Nigeria's oil. It's Biafra, the Delta region, and so forth. The fact of the matter is they feel it's easier to have a relationship with a dictator, and they're going to look the other way. Never let the Europeans pretend that they stand as a representative of human rights when they act in such a cynical, racist, and way that is so contrary to life, liberty, justice, freedom, especially. Now, I was hard saying Finland doesn't deserve the applause that so many people, Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, can ascribe to Scandinavian powers. I would today argue that through its actions behind the scenes, by laundering the Nigerian government, by allowing, by cynically using this mantle which it has developed over decades as a protector of human rights, that Finland has become one of the most cynical promoters of human rights abuses, on par with Russia, with China. The difference is Russia and China are much more open about what they're doing. Now, when it comes to the United States, however, the United States is we have two problems. The first is whether you're Republican, whether you're I don't care. And the fact of the matter is Biafra, like Cyprus, like India, should be a bipartisan cause. There's nothing partisan about freedom and liberty. And I say to the Republican, but I was a congressional Black Caucus for the late Congressman Bill Gregg, who was a Democrat. Say this. Not just as wishful thinking, but someone who truly believes in American society in general, and that's our general ignorance. Coming in after years of democratic power, coming in after years of or their office of the Dwight D. Eisenhower. Building in Five Bottom for repeated efforts during the citizens. And if I may, Nigerian religious animosity on the parts of some sectarian communities. Now, and if I may, Nigerian religious animosity on the parts of some sectarian communities. Now, one problem, of course, is then that U.S. historical so important for the Biafrans to really rally, to meet with Democrats, not to meet and spend all those time meeting with those who agree, concentrating their efforts on those who disagree. The fact of the matter is, Americans need education and history. Because the price of America, there's some good political appointees, there's some bad political appointees, and the same thing is true with the professional foreign service. But among ambassadors, however they get their job, there's two general styles. One style, and we've seen this too often in Nigeria, and I can name other places where we've seen this, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Somalia as well, takes an ambassador. And that ambassador believes that the best way to represent American interests is to ingratiate themselves with the dictator, to have zero tension with that dictator, and that oftentimes means amplifying that dictator's propaganda, his rhetoric, to his face. Well, the State Department should realize and should recognize that dictators have no shortage of sycophants. It shouldn't be the job of American ambassadors to join sycophants. George Shultz, the Reagan-era Secretary of State, was famous when a new ambassador they pointed to Burma, or they pointed to Pakistan, God help them. He would point to the United States and say, this is your country. You never forget it. When we send ambassadors abroad, their job should be to speak truth to power. It shouldn't be to kowtow to a dictator. And if that means calling out Nigeria for its abuses in Biafra, for its abuses of religious freedom, so be it. It may mean you're not going to get invited as the ambassador to this reception or that state dinner. Well, that's the price of being an ambassador and being truthful. Your job isn't to make a dictator feel good. It's to promote American interests as a U.S. ambassador. And one of the top American interests is religious freedom. The reason why religious freedom should be such a priority is it really is the canary in the coal mine. It really is the metric by which to see whether a dictator's rhetoric and actions meet. When former Secretary of State Anthony Blinken went to Nigeria and he met with the late Muhammadu Buhari, and he removed Nigeria from the religious freedom watch list, that was wishful thinking. It didn't make Nigeria a better place. It didn't stop the killings in Biafra. It didn't stop the killings elsewhere in Nigeria. All it did was signal to the Nigerian government that they could quite literally get away with murder. Wishful thinking has consequences. The United States also needs not to believe its own spin and not to try to force, cynically use the Biafran issue to advance its other causes. So, for example, I don't know how many times I've talked to people who are partial to the Nigerian government in the United States and will accept the Nigerian laws. And they will say that what we see happen in the Southeast has nothing to do with religious hatred, with religious intolerance on the part of the Nigerian government. It's all about climate change. Let me tell you this, and I've actually said this to the State Department. Climate change does not charter buses in order to ship Fulani militiamen into Biafra to kill Christians. That's not climate. That's not climate change. That's ethnic cleansing. That's religious hatred. That's sectarian cleansing, which American wishful thinking isn't polite. It doesn't make diplomacy easier. It simply gets people killed. And this is also why it's so important for the Biafran people to rise up and not only work to establish their freedom in Biafra, to reestablish their country. It's also important for them to educate Americans. Now, as many of you know, my background and what I did when I worked at the Pentagon actually focused much more in Middle East history. That's what my PhD is in, and so on. And having worked for more than 2 decades on issues that had some parallels, let me say this, and this may be controversial to say. Nigeria can't always be the end. And the reason I say this is, while Biafra must be free, there can be no compromise on it. At the same time, an independent Biafra is only going to thrive when Nigeria, its neighbor, is at peace with itself and with its neighbor. The fact of the matter is, the Biafrans are an engine of democracy. They were historically the intellectual capital, the economic capital of Nigeria when they were under Nigerian occupation. Have a role not only with freedom for Biafra, only going to confirm when Nigerians and when the Nigerian military in order to advance their own. This is important, and this is it's understandable that you focus on Biafra, but had conversations in the past with Iraqi presidents and prime ministers, and there's a recognition, despite the century-long struggle of the Kurds, the so-called ruin for their neighbor next door. I've had this conversation with the Cypriots and the Greeks, vis-a-vis Turkey as well. Turkey is a problem today, and Turkey is a problem which is going to work with Nigeria. What the Greeks and the Cypriots will tell you is, well, today Turkey acts. Once Turkey fundamentally reforms. And so it's important when you speak to promote the freedom for Biafra. Biafra is going to be a model, not only for Nigeria can get its act together. Even as Nigeria heads towards the precipice, the American satirical newspaper in that satirical newspaper in 2008. It was a fake announcement. That U.S. The fact of the matter is, as if they have a choice, the fact of the matter is, it's not occupied Biafra and for independence Biafra. The border of failed effort is going to need to recognize that it's a failing state. It's a building. It's the fact of the matter that every military leader inside Nigeria their own Nigerian public by trying to be prepared for this. And you recognize this because this is your history ultimately. You will thrive and be to make, and this is not for the people here, but some government. But the fact of the matter is, obviously has no Nigerian heritage. It's not my job or my concern to decide who the leader of Biafra is. You ask any American like me, any white American, who cares about human rights, who cares about Biafra liberty, what I would say is, when Biafra becomes independent, democratic elections. But if anyone starts to attack other Biafrans in the presence of European politicians, American politicians, United Nations, that it is giving that Biafra is serious. Now, let me give you one example. One of the first occurs in Iraq, in North are divided into two major political parties. One was Al-Awani's, Patriotic Nation of Kurdistan. The other was Barzani's, Kurdistan Democratic Party. And between 1994 and 1997, these two Kurdish parties fought civil war. To suggest that anger among the Kurds was high would be an understatement. They hated each other's guts. Thousands of people remain missing to this day from that civil war in northern Iraq between the Kurdish parties. And again today, that region is sensitive to us. Our Al rule as representative of one of the two Kurdish parties in Washington, D.C. His rule was, I will talk Kurdish politics to other Kurds, but I will never talk Kurdish politics when someone else is in the room. Because the only message that Washington needs to hear is Kurdistan must be free. Is that Biafra must be free. Ones who are seeking solve and achieving things, creating new terms, creating a structure for the state. Ultimately, every serious congressman, like Kristen, like Mark, one of the most important staffers on Capitol Hill, they are only recognized you for what you are. Because only amateurs talk about their violence. Those who are legitimate, those who are serious, those who are here today are the people who advance their cause. And make no mistake, momentum is on your side. So I speak here today, and I'm concluding my remarks right, by thanking you for your activism, by welcoming you to the hall of Congress, where you are free to talk to anyone, and you don't need to risk arrest. And again, your words aren't what's not opinion. We don't have to talk about hostility standards. The fact of the matter is, I hope to meet you when the United Nations General Assembly recognizes Biafra as the 55th or 56th African state. And I have absolutely no doubt
Please, can we give a hand of applause? This is the way of humanity, not just the other. He fights for me, he fights for you, he fights for the local community. And it is a kind of one we need, so that we can have a safer world and a better world, a world that will be great again. Thank you for your support. My name is Igbo, Biafra Republic Government Action Branch. And then after this, on behalf of Mr. Father Simon Everett, as we are fighting for our freedom, we are making history and we tell our story to the world. And this is the first Biafra Congressional rating. And we know that Nigeria is taking without being motivated. Nigerian government, they protest to stop this hearing. They have not stopped protesting. Thank you all for being here today. It is an honor to speak today during this historical congressional briefing on Biafra, the first in modern times. Yes. They have not stopped protesting. Thank you all for being here today. It is an honor to speak today during this historical congressional briefing on Biafra, the first in modern times. I want to thank my colleagues, which we are just giving hand of applause now before, of the American Enterprise Institute for its unwavering support and friendship to the Biafra people. Today, I will provide a broad overview of Biafra issues for all those watching. Nigeria is oil-rich country. When we say Nigeria, it's Biafra oil. Marco just on his speech, he made it clear. It's Biafra oil. And a continent power in Africa. It is a multi-ethnic, multi-language, and multi-religious country with a population of about over 200 million people. There are three major ethnic groups: the Igbo, the Yoruba, and the Hausa Fulani, and 250 other smaller ethnic groups. The Hausa Fulani are predominantly Muslim and live in the northern Sahara, or part of Nigeria. The Yoruba who live in the southwest are split almost even between Muslim and Christian. The Igbos, along with religious tribes, whom we refer to as Biafra, the interface of this solution, inhabit the southeast part of Nigeria, which is Biafra, and we are no longer Nigeria. We don't identify ourselves as Nigeria. We are Biafra. Part of Nigeria, which is combined population of over the Biafran population and over 70 million. Biafrans are predominantly Christians and traditional worshippers, with constituencies also practicing Judaism. Their land is blessed with human and mineral resources, including vast hydrocarbons. Biafrans are very commercially inclined, industrious, and are given to scholarly nation and coexist peacefully with their neighbors, including northern Nigeria and Cameroon, prior to their amalgamation with the rest of Nigeria in 1914. Biafra then, there was no single massacre of Biafras anywhere in pre-amalgamation in the so-called Nigeria. This is noteworthy. The foster of this program that was levied on Biafra, particularly the Igbos, among them happened in 1948 in northern Nigeria, where Biafras were, without any justification, massacred just for being Biafra, or merely looking like one, pivoting on false narrative of the so-called Igbo group, an Igbo plot to dominate Nigeria. Nigerian military officers and the police, and mostly from the north, planned and executed the over 3 million Biafrans between 2966 and 12 days. Biafrans not resisted by unilaterally declaring its independence, and more courageous. Sectional Nigeria provoked the Nigerian Civil War as a call for the aid in northern Nigeria, the difference is of Biafra. A nation born in the following aspects from recent war that follows is destructive and its that continue to result is regional editor of Morning Post told in Nigeria. It is a fight between the North. Coming was such that had the Roman Nigeria entirely successors continue to control Nigeria and thus ensure that no accountability was exerted for a crime of such shocking scale. And to date, no apology or remorse has emanated from official Nigeria or any of the prime state actors. It is this state of affairs and the post-war political suppression of Biafra that grandfathered the insurgency of Biafra agitation in recent times. The modern-day Biafra independent movement suppressed in 1999 with the creation of movement of the actualization of sovereign state of Biafra Mazur in 1999 by Chief Owazirike, in 2012 by Marginalization began the process of the Owazirike, then created the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, in 2012. Which became the predominant Biafra independent organization. Post-war agitation for Biafra and support for IPOB accelerated in late 2015 former President Buhari systematically embarked on widespread anti-Igbo policies, coupled with his open toleration of Fulani Islamic terror that was breached the northern race of the Igbo land. It was in the face of this that the indigenous people of Biafra IPOB and the idea of Biafra government in exile gained much traction as protector and defender of the people that have been detained today by the government of the day of Nigeria. It is to be noted that virtually all of us present at the vanguard of the Biafra were born after the Nigerian Civil War ended in 1970. So in our renewed quest for Biafra, we are not driving by any sense of personal growth or the work, revenge or bitterness, but by intent, a sense that our people are being restricted, and are believed in incompatibility of another people genocide. Vast majority of the Biafrans share the same view, even so, quietly because of fear of retribution by the Nigerian government or other non-state actors in alliance with the government. Amnesty International reports that since the advent of the former Buhari administration in 2015, Nigerian insecurity forces have killed more than thousands of Biafrans and wounded many more while they held peaceful protests against the killing and for self-determination. Amnesty International says that many of those pro-Biafra protesters were shot and killed in their sleep, and others while they gathered in churches to pray. Many of the protesters were shot and killed from behind while they tried to escape. The contemporary country report released by the United States and others while they gathered in churches to pray. Many of the protesters were shot and killed from behind while they tried to escape. The contemporary country report released by the United States Department confirmed such of this, particularly the Nigerian government declaration of IPOB as a terrorist organization in October 2017, which gave a dubious legal cover to Nigerian security forces to resort a strategic killing of Biafra pursued by self-determination agitator or members of IPOB. As such, I'm reading this. As you are reading this, the other killings of Biafrans by the Fulani Islamic terrorists is ongoing as we speak. The killing has not stopped to date, especially in the northern boundary of Igbo land, such that several innocent villagers were murdered in Igbo state in February 2025. Igbo communities to bury their brothers, sisters, fathers, mothers, sons, and daughters almost every month. And after times, the violence is maliciously and falsely attributed to unknown government or faceless Biafran separatists. In the face of all this, and in the perception that rogue elements of the security forces are complicit, the Biafran government in exile emerged has become of hope for Biafrans that have become distrustful of the government. It appears mentioned that when the agitation for Biafra accelerated in late 2015, the response of the Nigerian government was disappointingly non-pragmatic. Instead of acknowledging the broadening popularity of the agitation and take border-foreign measures to contain it through constructive engagement or dialogue, the government went wide with not seen since the end of the Civil War in 1970. This misguided law enforcement action turned a dangerous corner and embraced when the government went rogue by extraordinary rendition of our leader Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, the Biafra leader from Kenya, in late June 2021. No doubt this is an avoidable overreaction that has composed Nigerian legal system, triggered the international legal order against Nigeria, and better that have brought southeast Nigeria, which is Biafra, to this day. In between, Fulani Islamic terrorists have capitalized on the situation. Our Republic government is Ezra, of which he is the Prime Minister, as the next illustration of the Biafra independent movement. The brigade has galvanized the support of the Biafra population and has engaged in high-level dialogue in Washington, D.C. with U.S. government officials. Furthermore, brigade organized a self-referendum in which more than 50 million Biafra voted in favor of independence. Brigade held an independence convention in Lahti, Finland, which started November 29 to December 6, 2024, in which Brigade declared independence of Biafra on December 6, 2024. December 2, 2024, Biafra was declared. The government of Nigeria, according to Mr. Ekpa, has orchestrated 5 assassination attempts against this flag. After allegedly threatening to assassinate Mr. Ekpa, the government of Nigeria suddenly pressured the government of Finland to arrest Mr. Ekpa in December 2024 on politically motivated charges. The government of Finland then issued an indictment against Mr. Ekpa, as well as subsequent convictions, which demonstrate the political nature of the persecution at the instigation of government of Nigeria. The indictment by Finland, issued in May of 2025, alleged that Mr. Ekpa participated and supported a terrorist organization, even though pro-Biafra organizations are not designated as terrorist groups in Finland or anywhere in the European Union. In fact, the only country in the world where pro-Biafra organizations, the only country in the world where pro-Biafra organizations were segregated is in Nigeria. For the government of Finland to assess that the Finnish citizens holding political position regarding internal policy matters within Nigeria is somehow a criminal offense in Finland is nonsensical and absurd, and demonstrate that Finland is engaging in a political motivated prosecution. Nigeria conducts toward both Mazi Nnamdi Kanu and Simon Ekpa demonstrates transnational repression. At the moment, the issue of Biafra, the insecurity in southeast Nigeria, which is Biafra land, and all the unpleasant aftermath cannot be resolved, while the federal government of Nigeria persists in detention of Mazi Kanu. While Finland persists in detention of Mazi Simon Ekpa, and Biafrans continue to be marginalized. On this basis of foregoing, we must respectfully suggest the following to the U.S. government. 1. We urge the United States government to invoke the global Marxist Human Rights Accountability Act, Summit 5 of Title S 11 of 114-328 to identify and impose travel and financial restrictions on all officials of the federal government of Nigeria and any Nigerian non-state actor implicated in the killing of their Christians in their homeland in southeast Nigeria, which is Biafra. We urge the United States government, including through targeted sanctions and authorities, to pressure the government of Nigeria to release Mazi Nnamdi Kanu and allow him to set parties out of Nigeria. Third, we urge the United States government to pressure the government of Finland regarding its political motivated trial and condition against pro-Biafra activists, Simon Edward. For we urge the United States government to deny all bilateral assistance and visas to officials of the government of Nigeria if it continues to engage in the transnational repression against both Biafra activists, and if Simon Edward and Mazi Nnamdi Kanu continue to be held in detention. Consequently, Biafra truth bridges are ready to engage with the international community, include the United States of America government, especially in seeking to establish a newly independent Biafran state. The brigade is willing to engage in deal making with U.S. government and come to economic defense and security agreement with the United States. Biafrans represented by brigade are willing to negotiate with the U.S. in reciprocity and in anticipation for specific demands. Interest and expectation of the U.S. recent events in Sub-Saharan Africa have created a compelling need for the United States of America to get involved in the Gulf of Guinea. There is no better opportunity than that presented by the Biafra. For example, Biafra can be an ideal place for U.S. military as well as seaport. Biafra can also be host to African installations. Biafra can be a close ally of the United States and the Republic of Western Biafra can be an ideal place for U.S. military base as well as seaport. Biafra can also be host to African installations. Biafra can be a close ally of the United States and the Republic of Western interest in the region, as well as a war against Islamic terrorists and extremists. This is important now more than ever, given the loss of key U.S. military in Sahel countries, as well as the Nigerian government's ever closer relations with United States adversaries, a United States designated Islamic terrorist organization. In addition, Nigeria's persecution of Christians continues to worsen and further adds to the case of independent homeland for Nigeria. Christian population, just as U.S. recognized of Somalia present, great benefit to U.S. strategic interest in East Africa. Similarly, Biafra can present opportunities along similar lines for the U.S. in West Africa. We hope today's historical briefing will provide the precedent for further diplomatic engagement. And before I say thank you, we believe that we have sent our message, and we are damn serious for our freedom. We'll continue fighting. Our freedom is our right. No one else can do it better for us than us. And we are sending a message to the world, especially the United States of America. We appreciate the opportunity and the privilege they have given us to voice out so that they can do what is right. very soon we'll be having more diplomatic engagement with the United States of America, the leader of the free world. Thank you.
Yapotoba, live in Washington, D.C. Please share this program. Very, very important. Biafra is making history today, 18th of September 2025. All our bottle are Washington, D.C. Oh, no, Tayano. I have him on Makanda Sabo.
All right, we're going to be having some and we have some witnesses that will be asking questions about the current situation, what is happening in Biafra land, if it is suitable for them, if it is that what they want, do they deserve to live better than what is happening here today? We are glad to be here, and this is the beginning of our hearing in Washington, D.C. We believe the U.S. government, they are watching, they are listening, they are following, even if the members of the Congress, the ones that are not here, they are watching, so they know what we are doing and what is going on. I will call on Maria Mobi. Yes. children, and even unborn. Because in our case, we lose children in the mother's wombs due to Nigerian terrorism. Now, first of all, I would like to call on my sister, who is a witness, Love Akobon. I would like to ask you, Love Akobon, how would you describe the persecution and marginalization of Biafrans from your own personal observation and experience? What are the root causes of this genocide?
Hello, dear friends. Good afternoon. Thank you for the great government, the acting friends, and I also thank the Congress. I'm going to say what I received as information from those who witnessed from so-called investigation. From the time those people showed up to ensure that the bypass there hasn't been. Each time they bring up the situation that is not acceptable to our people, the Biafrans, the objective, because we already had democracy before they showed up. We were living in organized society in every ramification before they showed up. So when they showed up and want to alter who we are, change us, benefit them in every ramification before they showed up. So when they showed up and want to alter who we are, change us to benefit them, we said no. Instead of dialoguing with us, they come up. This has been going on through the agreements after the fall of Arab Kingdom. Our people regrouped, defending themselves, defending their land, defending their culture, defending who they are as a people. They were met with killing. They don't understand dialogue. From there, it moved to the time of taxation that was totally unacceptable, and our great-grandmothers came up to protest. Simple protest. They did not kill anybody. They did not destroy anything. They were just protesting because one of the useless people, it is not today we begin to have a place in our society. A man called, and I'm going to call him by name, and I wish his generation will get to hear it so they can be ashamed of their grandfather. Chief Oku from Oloko was the warrant chief who delivered that message of taxation. And after they had finished taxing our fathers, they came up to our mothers. And our mothers said no. What did they do? They turned out, killed some of them. To glorify their action, they termed it a Babylon riot, which is a false thing. From there, when they discovered coal in Enugu, again, to their interest, poor working conditions, our fathers protested for a better wages, a better working condition. What did they get? Bullets. They massacred the men. That was cold all the tomorrows to come, because we are Biafrans. No two ways about to take it or drop it. We will fight to the last man standing. Now, he did not stop there. He continues the same marginalization, the same wickedness in all form and shape. Fast forward to the so-called flag independence. What did we get? The 1966 pogrom. I had a sister-in-law who lost her father to 1966 pogrom. Move forward, 1967, the so-called genocidal war, which the world refused to acknowledge. The thing sweeping it under the carpet is going to make a difference. It's going to escalate, and it's escalating. We have no apologies to anybody. Biafra must be free. Okay?
Thank you so much, my sister Love. You heard it all. Now, I will ask another question to another sister of mine, Ms. Nonye Chimasari. We know how the United States government categorizes certain countries as state sponsors of terror. How do you run Nigeria given their killing of Biafrans? And should the U.S. government designate Nigeria as the state sponsor of terror?
Thank you very much for that question. First of all, I just want to thank Honorables Jim Moran and Elias Kerasolis and the U.S. Congress for giving us the opportunity to inform the world of what has been going on in Biafra for decades. So for the question, these are some of the reasons why the United States government should designate Nigeria as a terror organization. One, between 2015 to 2016, Amnesty International reported that Nigerian security forces killed over 1,500 IPOB protesters in cold blood. Remember, they didn't have any weapons. They were just exercising their rights as citizens. And in 2017, there was what they called Operation Python Dance, which targeted the southeast residents who are Biafrans, with soldiers invading communities, shooting civilians, and committing extrajudicial killings, which led to about 28 young men and women in our leader, Mazen Amdekano's house. Thirdly, from 2021 to 2023, Amnesty International also documented over 1844 killings in Biafra land, including unlawful executions, torture, and enforced disappearances by security forces. And one might ask whether these killings or these killers have been apprehended and brought to justice, and the answer is no. No one has been held accountable for these killings. In fact, when locals apprehend any of the killers, there is always an order to free them. Up to today, the killings continue, and the painful thing is the fact that Biafrans are killed simply because we are Christians, simply because of the crude oil in Biafra land, and because they want to Islamize us by force, which we are resisting. So I call the global community to pay attention to what's going on in Biafra land and elsewhere, where there is a genocide going on. Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. That's what I would be. Every Biafran to always carry in their heart fact that our people are dying every day. Now, my brother, father of the globe, how would you describe or Igbos within the Nigerian by the political establishment, which has traditionally been controlled? Would you say this is an important part of why Biafra independence movement? Instead of Biafrans given by the political establishment, some of us came into this world.
We see this hatred every day. We have this economic jihad as going on. Our businesses have been bought us in the north. We are not allowed to scale when it comes to political positions as in the presidency of the country. And now we are seeking for Biafra. We want to be on our own so that we can be able to live in peace without facing this hatred every day. The colonial states are the ones controlling Nigeria, and with this economic jihad, they have continued to display this economic jihad on the Biafrans, day in, day out, in every aspect of life, and we are tired of it. And we say this is the reason why over 80 million Biafrans, over 50 million Biafrans voted for the Biafra self-referendum, because they themselves are tired of the hatred. Every one of us can see it, even the young ones. And that is why there is maximum support for Biafra, so that we can have our own independent state and live in accordance with our own values. So, that's what I would say about that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. My brother Chimajon, for those among you who lived during the first Biafra Civil War, it's called a civil war, but we know it's a genocidal war against the Biafran people, 1967 to 1970. Please describe your experience. I know you might not know, but I know you have to have told the story. I see you're very much younger than 1967. So describe your experience and how you would compare the Biafran independence movement in the 1960s compared to now. And what do you wish the United States government to do regarding the issues of Biafra?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I want to thank the U.S. Congress for the opportunity that we have today to go for this direct Biafra. Some of us are not on but all the atrocities that happened against Biafra, against the Igbos during the war, we saw that the Biafra land was completely destroyed by the Nigerian states in conjunction with its Western allies. And it destroyed the schools, it destroyed the infrastructure. And while we were growing up, every part of Nigeria was designated as educational level. And these are places where there were no bombs, where there was no destruction. But in the Biafra land, in the Igbo land, Igbos were never designated as educational. And we know what happened with this. One of the things that happened was the total blockade of the Biafra land, and which led to the death of over 3 million people and the starvation of over 1 million children. I'm sure that the world saw some of those pictures, gory pictures of Masha because of
that was America. American students set himself as late one of the United States of Europe. People like Steve Jobs, founder of Apple, saw what happened in Biafra, swore not to set his foot inside the church. And say, how in the world put their eyes and saw this humans of so fellow Christians and never did it because of oil and division and theft. But he saw all that. The Nigerian state, as part of the plot to put the effort down, and the Igbo, they made sure that after the war, that every Igbo person or Biafra will receive only 20 pounds to start life. And the Igbos and the Biafra, they were richest. That's what they were at that time. It was designed according to one of Nigeria's reports to put Biafra down, and the Igbos in particular, they made sure that after the war, that every Igbo person or Biafra received only 20 pounds to start life in the beginning. And the Igbos and the Biafrans were the richest in that country at that time. It was designed, according to one of Nigeria's recent presidents, that it was designed to make Biafrans fall for over 200 years and become subservient to other Igbos. At the end of the day, today, Biafrans are not only successful, but they have reason to say that the only thing that will make us safe to actualize our economic and political potential and destiny is the creation of an independent state of Biafra, or the restoration of it, so that we can live in peace with our neighbors, so that we can be allies of the West and to our global community, so that we can harness our potential, our intellectual resources, our natural resources. We can harness to the benefit of not only our community, but to the world at large. That is what Biafrans seek. And we want the United States and the leaders of the free world to stand up and begin to do what is right by the Biafran people. Begin to do what is right. Because that's something that they're looking for. That's something that they take, that Nigeria gives them. Those oil and gas comes from Biafra land. We can negotiate. We can reach a deal with any country, America in particular, so that we can have our independence, a place we can feel safe, and to live in freedom. Thank you very much.
My mother served in the Red Cross during the war. My father was only a soldier during that war. So, just like himself, and like many of us here, have so many stories of what happened and why we need to be free. It's not just because of resources, but for our children to be able to see tomorrow. Now, I want to call on my brother, our brother, Mazikelo Israel. Mazikelo Israel, please, as we are in the Capitol Hill building, speaking to the United States Congress and to everyone who cares to listen to the Biafra briefing, I would like to ask, what would you recommend, or what would be your recommendation to the United States government to hold Nigeria accountable and to assist Biafra?
Thank you very much, Honorable. First of all, let me thank our great friends, Elias Razolas and course, Honorable Dr. Michael Rubin spoke earlier on, and Ogen Kerry, who has been leading this struggle since our leaders have been incarcerated. I'm talking about Simon Emba and Nandekan. And I want to thank the U.S. Congress for allowing us this opportunity to come here. Again, they are demonstrating that they are the leader of the free world, as against other nations where they don't want to talk about this. As our Honorable Michael Rubin has said, here you are free to talk and nobody will arrest you. And so we are here requesting that U.S. government to come and stop the killings that is going on in Nigeria. We are talking about the genocide that happened in 1966 to 1970. Right now, that was happened mainly in the southeast. Right now, the entire Nigerian state is a ghetto. The tribals want to happen during the Civil War. And so we are pleading with the U.S. Congress to come to us quickly, not to delay, by doing these following things: to officially recognize the Biafra genocide of 1966 to 1970, which has continued up to today, as our government to condemn immediately. That is because that is save life. Condemn immediately the abuses that is going on there, which is quite obvious. It's not hidden. You have terrorists that have been recognized, giving peace deal, while those that are speaking the truth to save the country from the killings that is going on have been incarcerated, like Mazin and Kano and Simon Eva. Just yesterday, they agreed on a plea deal with terrorists, a peace deal, and they are walking free. We are asking the U.S. government to invoke the Global Magnitsky Act, identify all those criminals. The Canadian government have declared the political organizations in Nigeria as terrorist organizations. We are asking the U.S. government to go further, identify the individuals themselves, and invoke them and put heavy sanctions on them. That is what yesterday they agreed on a plea deal with terrorists, a peace deal, and they are walking free. We are asking the U.S. government to invoke the Global Magnitsky Act, identify all those criminals. The Canadian government have declared the political organizations in Nigeria as terrorist organizations. We are asking the U.S. government to go further, identify the individuals themselves, and invoke them and put heavy sanctions on them. That is what we are asking. To further what the Canadian government has already done. We are asking the U.S. government to demand with immediate effect to the release of Nnamdi Kanu, a man that has been even acquitted in some of the courts in that Federal Republic of Nigeria. Some courts have discharged him and acquitted him, and in fact requested that the government compensate him. Outside of UN have already also requested that he be released immediately. Kenyan government has come out openly to say that he was extraordinary rendition. He was kidnapped from Kenya. That he should be released. and on no basis should he be tried for anything because of the illegality that they practice on him and the abuses. Yet, Nnamdi Kanu is still in prison. Even recently, he asked for him to be allowed to visit the hospital, to go for a hospital treatment, and they rejected it. They rejected that he would not go to the hospital. So we are asking the U.S. Congress to act immediately. We need urgent help. We also ask U.S. Congress to pressure Finland to release Simon Eber. He was doing nothing other than he was worried seeing the decimation of his people. Okay? But that's the only thing we are asking. Pressure Finland government to release Simon Eber. Finally, we ask the U.S. Congress to recognize the referendum that was conducted. 50 million Biafrans voted. If that is not acceptable, then how to help us organize a UN acceptable referendum for Biafrans, and to show that demonstrate that Biafrans are really in need to be free. And the freedom we're asking for Biafrans is not going for Biafrans, because it will also free the ordinary people of that country called Nigeria from all the killings that are going on, which is only going to escalate as the 2027 elections continue. These are what we are requesting. Thank you very much.
Just to add one single thing to what he said, something that is very dear to me. I really wish that the United States Congress and the United States government would help us pressure Nigeria. I would like for the genocide that took the life of over 5 million of my people to be recognized. If today we speak about the Holocaust, there is no reason why we shouldn't speak about the death of over 5 million Biafrans. Thank you very much. Thank you all.